Published by New Blood Studios, developed by David Szymanski, with music done by Andrew Hulshut, I present to you Dusk. And that's enough about that. So hello everyone, welcome to another video, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at Dusk, which is an early access title available on Steam for about 17 euros or roughly about $20. It was recommended to me by a friend who simply said it is an old school shooter through and through, and god damn it, he was right. It nails it so much in fact that I didn't even flinch when the game was running in a 4:3 aspect ratio and just recorded the first episode and then realized, oh my god, there are black bars when I watched the recording. It just didn't feel out of place because every now and then I will reinstall an old school shooter like Duke Nukem, Doom, Heretic or Blakestone and play that, and if you're not using a mod for those games, they're gonna be in 4:3. And I think the fact that I managed to play for about an hour and finish the first episode without even really noticing the black bars or them ever feeling out of place says a lot about how well this game nails the old school shooter feeling. My brain was basically just like, well, it's an old school game, so of course there are gonna be black bars, duh, and automatically filtered them out. Now I'm gonna say right off the bat that I absolutely adore everything about this game. It is fan-freaking-tastic, and the fact that it was made just by one dude is even more amazing. Now the game has been around for a while now, I think, but it has finally hit early access on the 11th of January. It also has 2 out of its 3 episodes done, whereas previously you could only play the first one, with the final episode coming out later. It also has functional multiplayer, though I didn't play it because I was mostly interested in the single player part. And if you finish the campaign and you still want more, there's also the endless mode, which has different arenas that are modeled after the episodes from the campaign, where you're basically just gonna be shooting waves and waves of dudes until you die. And even though the arenas are pretty small, it is still a ton of fun because you can just run around and shoot things with all different kinds of weapons and use jump pads and it's good. It's not as good as the campaign, and I can't really see myself playing this for like 30 plus hours, but as I've said already, if you finish the campaign and you want more, this is where you get it. So why do I like this game so much? Well, first of all, there is the movement. You move around incredibly fast. It's not like a lot of shooters nowadays where you're weighed down by 500 tons of power armor, so you can't sprint for more than 6 seconds before you're exhausted. Here you're basically a very agile motorcycle with a gun, and that's how it should be. The controls are also buttery smooth, and I never ran into any issues with the movement or the shooting. Basically the game always does exactly what you tell it to. And this is very important because moving around is how you stay alive. Enemies fire projectiles or have melee attacks that you need to dodge. If you don't do that, well, you're just gonna die, because this is not a game where you can hide behind cover, suck your thumb for 5 seconds and regenerate all your health. Now I know there are a lot of people that take sort of this elitist approach to health pickups, but the way I see it is that health pickups and regenerating health are 2 very different things. Both of them can be really good if done properly, but also kinda suck if not. Regenerating health allows the developer to focus more on individual encounters because they're sure the player is always gonna be at maximum health, whereas the pickup system is focused around the entire level and how you progress through it. I've played plenty of games that do both of these systems really well, and plenty of games that do both of them really bad, and I must say the pickup system, if done bad, is worse than a bad regenerating health system. But at the same time, a good regenerating health system is nowhere near as satisfying as a well-planned pickup system, because it doesn't deliver those intense moments where you're running around on 5 health, so you're basically jumping around on 1 leg with 1 finger on each hand and half your buttocks blown off, looking for the next health pack while there are rockets flying around your head. That's something that just doesn't happen with regenerating health. And Dusk definitely does it well, though the first episode was a little bit too easy when I played it on normal, which is what the game recommended for my first playthrough. The second episode though, that one is much harder, and I actually got into a couple of those moments where I was running around on 5 health looking for a health pack. Next up are the weapons, and oh my goodness, this game has quite the arsenal. You started off with the double sickles, which are only really useful if you ran out of ammo for everything else. Next up are the pistols, with the akimbo version coming a little bit later. These don't do a ton of damage, but they fire pretty fast and they are fairly accurate even at long range. Next up is the shotgun, which can also be wielded akimbo, because of course it can. This does a ton of damage up front, but has quite a bit of spread, so it's not great at long ranges. Then comes the automatic rifle, which has great DPS, but it doesn't have as much burst damage as the shotgun and is far more accurate at long ranges, which is followed up by the super shotgun, because what kind of an old school FPS would this be without a double-barreled shotgun, which has much lower fire rate than the original shotgun, especially if you wield the original one's akimbo, but it has far more burst damage. Later on, about halfway through the first episode, you can get your hands on the magic crossbow, which fires penetrating bolts that do a ton of damage. Next on the menu is the hunter rifle, which does a ton of damage with each shot. It also has a much higher zoom than all the other weapons, but it has fairly low fire rate in comparison. Then there is the mortar, or the grenade launcher, that fires grenades that you can either detonate by pressing the right mouse button, but they will also detonate whenever they hit an enemy head on. And finally there is the riveter, which is a rocket launcher and does exactly what you would expect a rocket launcher to do. So it does great damage, has a ton of splash damage as well, but if you're not careful you can blow yourself up too. Now there is one more weapon, and it's a really cool one as well, but you find it in a secret, so I'm not gonna show it. The enemy roster is really good too. It's varied, so you start off by fighting the chainsaw dudes with a sack on their head, then you have the roped cultists that fire fireball, then you have some crazy dog, horse things with antlers on their head, I don't even know what those are, and the enemies just get tougher, more interesting, and smarter as you keep going on through the game, especially once you hit the second episodes, and there's also a bunch of boss fights scattered throughout the entire game. The levels progress in a similar way that the enemies do. They start off pretty basic, with the first couple of levels being really short and being able to done in like 5 minutes, and they get bigger, more elaborate and interesting as you keep going on and on. Now the levels are what in my opinion sells this game as an old school style shooter the most, because, and this starts about 3 or 4 levels in, the levels turn from just this place where you shoot a bunch of dudes into areas that are distinctive, interesting, and kinda take an idea and run with it. Whether it is what is a relatively small area that just has loads of tunnels winding around and you keep coming back to the same place, but you always discover something new because you found a new key, or an area where you have to avoid traps, or just a simple key hunting level. Or one area in the second episode where you're climbing through these really dark tunnels and your flashlight is broken, so you kind of have to navigate through this red foggy tunnel. It's really cool. This is what shooters used to be like. They had interesting levels with varied themes and awesome things to do in those levels. They weren't scared that if you don't shoot something every 5 seconds, you're gonna instantly leave the game and delete it. And don't get me wrong, there is plenty of shooting to be done in Dusk. I just like it when it's punctuated by those calmer moments. And it's a combination of all those things, you know, the movement, the weapons, the enemies, the level design that make me like this game so much. I had a blast playing this and I'm gonna play it again. Because why not? I've had my fun with it and I want to have more. I can't wait for the third episode, because going from the first episode to the second one was a massive improvement. You can see the levels getting bigger and more interesting and intricate. I mean, just the first level of the second episode starts off with this massive area that's probably bigger than anything you've seen in the first episode, so I cannot wait to see what the third episode has to offer. Is it a perfect game? No, I think some of the enemies, especially the rats, are kind of annoying. They're too small and most weapons will just miss them half the time. Some of the pickups are too small to see, let alone pick up, and I think they should be made bigger, especially the singular bullets, they're really small. But it is overall a very enjoyable old school experience. So if you like the look of this game as well and you would like to try it out, I will leave a link to the Steam store in the description down below. And as always guys, I thank you very much for watching, I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye. Oh my god, the music! I almost forgot about the music! The music in this game is really good.